Senator Joel Villanueva, I think we just had a quorum. Although he went out for a while, I'm asking the presence of Senator Robin Hood Padilla. So the committee, the Committee on Finance, the Subcommittee on Finance, will conduct a public hearing relative to the budget of the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, and the committee is now called to order. Do you have a presentation, sir?
We have, Your Honor, but it's incorporated in the overall presentation with the Senate.
Can you surgically isolate that
Yes.
portion?
Okay.
The majority leader is here. Can you isolate that and concentrate just on LEDAC?
May I just put on record, Mr. Chairman, that I'm in full support of the budget of Neda, and I'm here to support also my chairman, Senator Tolentino. Thank you.
LEDAC, the Legislative Executive.
Of course, LEDAC, which is very, very important. I
Which
think,
you remember?
please give us the schedule na kasi I think
Yeah.
for 3 or 4 times na yata na postpone, no? Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So for your brief presentation relative to LEDAC,
Yes,
please proceed, sir.
So we have actually just 2 slides on the on LEDAC. Your Honor, we have presented here the slide flash on the screen, the major accomplishment of LEDAC and the goals for 2023. And let me focus on the goals for 2023. We for 2023, LEDAC aims to approve the common legislative agenda for the 19th Congress and pursue its enactment by addressing the issues that hinder the passage of these measures through the regular convening of LEDAC and its subcommittees. For your information, Your Honor, we are organizing the first meeting of LEDAC next week. It's either Monday or Thursday. We are still some parties are still negotiating on a date, but the President has already earlier approved Thursday meeting. But I think the Senate President and the Speaker.
So has there been a LEDAC meeting thus far? Just one?
No, we are still organizing because all the members are still not been appointed, Your Honor.
The members are the following. Neda, Principal Secretariat, 7 cabinet members not yet appointed. 3 members from the Senate, I think we have already designated. 3 members from the House.
We have
I'd like to
already.
acknowledge the presence and arrival of our good friend, the senator from the South, Southwest, ano pa ba? The North, Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
Good afternoon, Senator.
So 3 members from the House,
We have already,
1 member from the local government unit, the ulang president, I suppose.
yeah, not yet. We don't have yet the appointment for the LGU.
So when
and,
do you envision to have the first LEDAC meeting?
next week, Your Honor.
Please proceed, sir.
Yeah, the President has earlier chosen Thursday, but the Speaker and I think and the Senate President are proposing Monday, no? Anyway, it's going to be, yeah. So the budget of this committee, Your Honor, is a quite a modest one. It's just 3.088 million pesos, representing just the wages of some personnel. We
You only have 3 personnel.
how many personnel do we have?
Mini Senator Robin dito. Dalawang permanent, isang contractual.
Yeah, Neda is the secretariat, Your Honor, so we really don't need too many personnel. But we have 3 personnel, 3 staff, so fully assisting us. And as approved by DBM, Your Honor, and they actually decreased our budget. It's already already 3.08 million, but still decreased hopefully next year we can ask for.
Who is handling the funds? It's Neda. Neda is handling the funds, right?
Who is-
Who will handle the funds?
Who is handling the funds? Neda, Your Honor.
Yung COA recommendations, findings last year, for the information of Senator Padilla, eh, merong discrepancy na 9,000 pesos. Ano lang yun? 9,770.74. Hindi na pwedeng ma-blue ribbon yun, ano. So, ano lang to, minor ano lang to. I think we don't have an issue here, Mr. Secretary. What I have in mind is just to submit to this committee, one, the list of the 19 priority legislative proposals as enunciated by the President during his first SONA, and then relate this with what you, the Secretariat, is doing right now in relation to the 8-point socio-economic agenda. So how would you intersect all of this? ROTC, paano maghahalo-halo yan, di ba? Plus, I think you should likewise include current efforts which were not part of the 19-point priority legislative measures but are serving as the backbone of the socio-economic program. For instance, the President last Monday mentioned that the subway to be completed would serve as a magnet for investments, among others. So siguro samahan nyo ng konting palabok. So if given the chance, Secretary, can you submit this committee likewise your priority bills to be tackled by the council? Of course, you will prepare the agenda, di ba? You will prepare the agenda. I don't know if you have minutes of previous meetings. Kasi lockdown po tayo noon. 2021, 2020. So, as part of your agenda-making function, perhaps you will submit the top priority bills, likewise to inform this committee. Yun lamang po. Wala kaming question dito, Mr. Secretary, dito sa NEP, sa GAA, unless gusto nyo madagdagan pa ng isa yung empleyado nyo, di apat na. Dalawang contractual, dalawang permanent. Are there indications that this should be enlarged or okay na yun? Wala namang ano. Because the presidential management staff is also helping you, I suppose, and the office of the president.
We'll ask na lang our DBM to return to us one position that was not given a budget commission.
Ano pong position yon?
It's vacant since March 2022, but I think that's a minor thing that we can arrange with.
I suppose
Yes.
that position is someone with a legal background, for someone with a legal background. Ano po ba yun?
What's the nature? With legal. With legal. Okay.
Hindi naman kailangan ng doktor. Hindi nyo kailangan ng pharmacist.
No, legal.
Yes, sir. We take note of that. Senator Padilla, do you have any questions that can be addressed to LEDAC? Naghalo-halo na sila, sir. Kaya akala mo marami, pero sila po yung secretary at yung NEDA ng LEDAC.
Opo, maraming salamat po, mahal na tagapangulo. Wala naman po, ako po ay maligaya at nandito po sila sa harap natin. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Makikinig lang muna po ako at napakasarap makinig eh. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
As part of your presentation, any future plans? Wala naman siguro.
Yeah, we intend to make this LEDAC more dynamic and more, we'll really would want to make it a facilitative device for getting the priority legislation of the administration.
Sir, one last item before we turn over this to Senator Angara. Since one of your members would be the LGU representative, LGU, the youth in the private sector, are there policy initiatives that could perhaps be followed by the local government units relative to post-pandemic local government economic recovery programs that you can tie up with the Mandanas ruling and perhaps the current energy of the newly elected local officials. Do you have plans for this? Do you have any proposal?
The process, Your Honor, is that in the first meeting of the LEDAC, which is next week,
The real chairman of the Committee on Finance is here. I'm just an acting chairman. Sir, with your permission, I texted you that we go ahead with the LEDAC first. And we're about to end. We're about to end. I told them once we see your shadow, we will end.
No, please don't let me interrupt, sir. Thank you.
The question is about the LG.
right, yeah. So I was saying, Your Honor, that the first, in the agenda of the first meeting next week is for the legislative agenda of the executive to be presented, and then the legislative agenda of the House and the Senate will also be presented by the respective representatives, and then the next step is to come up with a common legislative agenda that we collectively will prioritize for legislation.
So what about, sir, the LGUs?
Yeah, but
Are you not allowed to propose likewise some guidelines for the LGUs?
we'll have the president has already been asked to appoint the representatives so that we can get their collective wisdom also and the legislative priorities. But I think there are in the legislative proposals so far that we are seeing, there are many items there that would have implications on the youth and
Because we always
members
believe
of our
that
population.
our economic recovery would be local government
Yeah.
driven.
Yeah, I agree.
Local government driven. So, Mr. Chairman, do you have other questions?
Well, just if the LEDAC meeting next week is pushing through. There's one on the
So far,
Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
yeah, when I met with the
Thursday?
president last Tuesday, that's yesterday, we indicated that next Thursday would be the meeting.
Okay.
But of course, there's still some reason. But I'm hoping that is it
Okay.
because we
Thank you.
also have to prepare.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all, Chair.
Thank you. So, if there are no other questions coming from my colleague, Senator Robin Hood, I will share him the Maranao food. Sa kanya yan. Sa kanya yan. From Marawi. If there are no other questions, without objections on the part of my colleagues, the LEDAC, the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council budget hearing is hereby terminated, and we will submit this to the plenary without objections. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now yield the floor to the real chairman for the Neda budget hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Tolentino, for very swiftly tackling the budget of NEDA. Again, let me greet also Senator Robin Hood, Idol, and of course, Secretary Balisacan and his team. Gandang hapon po. Pasensya na po kayo. I came from a 3.5-hour set of briefings from the DFA and other agencies. So, any opening statements on the part of our colleagues before we hear the NEDA presentations on their budget? Yeah. Senator Francis, Vice Chair Francis?
No
Senator Robin?
further opening statement,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to you, Sec. RC, and your team. Again, good afternoon, sirs, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive me, no? I'm a little nahihilo na tayo sa 3 oras. May we acknowledge the guest and ask the ComSec to do it? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. The committee would like to acknowledge the following resource person. For on-site attendees, we have from the National Economic and Development Authority, Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, Undersecretary Melbourne Zairo Pana, Assistant Secretary Sara Lynn Daway Docanes, Undersecretary Joseph Capuno, Assistant Secretary Rick Planta, Undersecretary Carlos Bernardo Abad Santos, And for the Philippine Statistics Authority, we have Undersecretary Claire Dennis Mapa and OIC Deputy National Statistician Fred Soliesta. For the Commission on Population and Development, we have Executive Director Lolito Tacardon. For the Tariff Commission, we have Chairperson Marilu Mendoza. For the Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute, we have Maria Praxedes R. Peña, Chief Statistical Specialist. For the Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency, we have Executive Director Donald James Gawe. And for the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, to represent Dr. Aniceto Orbeta, we have Renee Ann Hayi, Department Manager. For virtual attendees from the Neda, we have Assistant National Statistician Socrates Ramores, Assistant National Statistician Christine Joy Briones, Assistant National Statistician Emily Pagador. For the COA representatives, we have with us OIC Supervising Auditor Emiliana Castillo. And for the DBM representative, we have OIC Chief Budget and Management Specialist Valentino Andrew Orsolino. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Where is Dr. Urbeta?
He is sick.
I see.
He is sick po.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Sec RC. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Sani Angara, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, Senator Francis Tolentino, honorable members of other honorable members of the Senate Committee who may be coming later, and the whole NEDA family. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to present the proposed budget of NEDA and its attached agencies for fiscal year 2023. The next slide is the order of our presentation. First, let me provide an overview of our agency and attached agencies, Your Honor. Just a refresher, NEDA is composed of the NEDA Board and the NEDA Secretariat. The NEDA Board is the highest development planning and policy coordinating body of the country. It's composed of the President as the chairman, the NEDA Secretary as the vice chair, and the different cabinet secretaries as members. The board formulates socioeconomic policies, plans, and programs, and approves public investment programs and other development assistance from foreign governments and multilateral agencies. The NEDA board is supported by the NEDA Secretariat, which serves as the board's research and technical arm. The Secretariat conducts studies and develops policy measures and other recommendations and other various aspects of development planning and policy formulation, as well as investment programming. It also coordinates, monitors, and evaluates the implementation of this plan. The NEDA board has a number of committees. Where's the where's my other copies? Can I just the first of these you're quite familiar, Your Honors, the Development Budget Coordination Committee, or DBCC. That committee has presented to this August body earlier. We have also the Investment Coordination Committee, or ICC, the Committee on Infracom, the Committee on or the Social Development Committee, or SDC, the Committee on Tariff and Related Matters. We have the Regional Development Committee and the National Land Use Committee. The various members of the cabinet are spread across these committees, Your Honor. The next slide is the current organizational chart of NEDA. The central office consists of 5 major groups, and there are 15 regional offices. Note that the secretariat of the LEDAC, which was budget was discussed earlier, Your Honor, it's lodged under the office of the secretary. We have been undertaking organizational reforms to be more efficient and responsive to the new development challenges. In 2021, Neda submitted a proposal for the creation of additional staffs and positions, considering the expanded scope of our work and new challenges in development planning, as well as evidence-based policymaking, requiring futures thinking and proper monitoring and evaluation. We are hoping to get your support on these initiatives, Your Honor. There are also 7 attached agencies under NEDA, as shown this slide. I believe we are quite familiar with them, Your Honor, so I don't have to go through, but let me mention the first is the Philippine Statistical Authority, the implementer of the national ID or the PhilSys. It's everyone is now has heard of. The Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute, or PSRTI, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, the Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency, or PNVSCA, the Public-Private Partnership Center, the Tariff Commission, and the Commission on Population and Development, or POPCOM. So let me turn next to the key accomplishments for fiscal year 2021 to 2022 and our goals for fiscal year 2023. Shown on that slide, Your Honor, is a gist of NEDA's accomplishments in accordance with its mandates and major programs. We have provided details of these accomplishments, but in the interest of time, allow me to skip this for now, but we will be ready to answer questions on this if you have any. So I can turn to socioeconomic planning and the planning program, our goals for 2023. Okay, before I move to 2023, allow me to reiterate NEDA's commitment to complete, Your Honor, the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028 by December of this year. The administration's 8-point socioeconomic agenda shall serve as the strategic framework of the PDP. Through the PDP, we will flesh out the priorities by identifying key development and sectoral issues, laying out strategies, programs, and policies, and proposing legislative outputs that will contribute to the achievement of the plan's targets. So we will start 2023 with overseeing the implementation of the plan. As the PDP strategies will involve policy reforms and resources, we will strengthen advocacy and stakeholder engagement for the passage of important laws and promote awareness and resource allocation for programs under the plan. We will also shepherd the formulation of the National Innovation Agenda and strategy document and supports its implementation. In case of disasters, NEDA as vice chair of the NDRMMC will be ready to prepare for rehabilitation or to prepare rehabilitation and recovery programs. In pursuit of evidence-based policy and decision-making, NEDA will continue to undertake various studies, researches, and surveys, as well as develop master plans. We will continue to provide technical and secretarial support services to the NEDA board. With the Mandanas ruling now in effect, NEDA will work to improve national, regional, local coordination, and we will need to strengthen our efforts at the subnational level. This entails supporting the implementation of the devolution policy, strengthening RDC activities, and providing support to LGUs in development planning. Under National Investment Programming Program, we will finalize and disseminate the medium-term national and regional investment programs. The 3-year rolling infrastructure program will be prepared as inputs to the fiscal year 2024 budget preparation. Neda will undertake programmatic ICC appraisal and programming of projects proposed for ODA. In pursuit of regional equity, we will develop a system of institutionalized horizontal and vertical linkages between planning, programming, and budgeting process. This includes having a unique project ID for the entire country. For monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, we will formulate the socioeconomic report, or SER, and the regional development reports for 2022, conduct evaluation studies on priority government policies and PAPs to promote evidence-based decision-making, and strengthen monitoring and evaluation of flagship PAPs. We'll also, for support of the operations, we'll continue implementing our agency improvement plans, including business process improvement and reengineering, organizational redesign, quality management system, and accreditation to ISO standards. So let me turn to the rest of the, let me skip this general administration slides, Mr. Chair, and proceed to describing the attached agencies' major accomplishments and goals for 2023. First, the Philippine Statistics Authority. PSA's major accomplishments include the registration of 72.9 million Filipinos in PhilSys as of September 9. The pilot implementation of the community-based monitoring systems, completion of monthly and quarterly labor force surveys and of the family income expenditure surveys, and release of the 2021 official poverty statistics. For 2023, PSA aims to deliver 92 million digital and physical PhilIDs and register the remaining 24 million Filipinos and resident aliens for demographic and biometric capture. It also intends to release the results of the CBMS, or the Community-Based Monitoring System, the multidimensional poverty statistics, and SDG indicators at the local level. It will continue the monthly and quarterly labor force survey, conduct the 2023 FIES, and release the methodology for estimating multidimensional poverty indicators and the revised methodology for income-based OPS. Good afternoon, ma'am.
To acknowledge our Senate President Pro Tempore and former chair of this committee, Senator Lauren Legarda, now Senior Vice Chair. Oh.
Good afternoon again, ma'am. Okay, the PSA has also released other statistics based on surveys and censuses, and will continue to do such work as seen in the on this slide and the next. Let me just emphasize, Mr. Chair, that the PSA has been increasingly producing regional and provincial level statistics and using computer-assisted interviews to hasten processes. This slide, the next shows other accomplishments and related goals for 2023 on the various surveys. In addition, PSA has been making improvements in the civil registration process. For 2023, PSA intends to digitalize the process and to improve and expand physical infrastructure and facilities for the benefits of clients and employees. Meanwhile, Popcom, or the Population and Commission on Population and Development, has focused on advocacy for responsible parenthood and family planning, and referred and
With your permission, Secretary, I think si
Secretary,
Vice Chair Tolentino just wants to make
I miss your presentation because I have to transfer to the
yeah.
newly created Department of Migrant Workers.
Go ahead.
So I just have one lingering question. After this, I'll go up. It has something to do with a debate between me and Senator Drilon last Congress. Na- last Congress. And it has something to do with what the President attended the other day. It is the subway. Makati is having their own subway. Previously, the city of Manila would want to have a monorail, an elevated monorail, within the confines of Manila, of course. And I heard of other initiatives, I think Pasig or Mandaluyong, having their own transportation system. LGUs have their autonomy under the local government code, under the Constitution. But it appears, and I'd like to quote our debate with Senator Drilon during the 18th Congress. Our first question, this is addressed to whoever was presenting then. Our first question, quote unquote, is that what can be done by the LGU? What can be done by the LGU under the present system, which would further their autonomy? So my answer is this. I don't know who asked the question. Precisely, Mr. President, the bill is addressed to highly urbanized LGUs, which would give them the legal cloak insofar as entering into agreement with private transportation or mass transportation companies, which right now is not present. Because based on my experience, I was MMDA chairman before, if an LGU, for instance, Cebu, would want to have its own monorail system, even if we have a back city council resolutions coming from two city administrations, no foreign investor partner would endeavor to enter because there seems to be a legal obstacle here. We are precisely in a twilight legal zone because while they have autonomy, but in reality they do not have, because projects costing more than 200 million, for instance, would have to go through the Neda ICC. Ito po yung tinatanong ng mga, kasi ngayon, yung mga mayors natin, mga governors, not just millennial, but tech savvy. So they would want to have their own projects within the confines of their jurisdictions, even Tagaytay, for instance, but the hurdle to be confronted would be the NEDA ICC. Is there a way, sans new legislative enactment, that would perhaps facilitate this? Similar to what Makati has done. Makati has been dredging. In fact, they would have their subway within 2 years completed. So paano kaya ito mapapabilis? Na kasi pag pumunta sa NEDA ICC, naging NEDA member din ako nung araw eh. Talagang matagal. Talagang matagal po yung proseso. So paano kaya ito mapapabilis? Part of your discussion,
Yeah,
Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's concern, Senator. And what we are doing right now is to improve the processes and to making sure that this public investment and public infrastructure programs proceed smoothly. For example, the first thing that we have done recently is the amending the IRR, BOT IRR, so as to encourage the private sector to be more involved with public infrastructure, and that would give, I think that would open up doors for involvement, even LGUs in public infrastructure development. As the President already mentioned in one of his speeches, he is encouraging LGU to go into PPPs as well.
So, you have two options. Either we do away with the 200 million cap or raise the bar. Because for a highly urbanized city, for instance, Cebu City, Mandaue, the need for an effective system of transportation can be answered by the LGUs, forming a grouping together, Mandaue, Lapu-Lapu, Cebu, Talisay, including Naga City in Cebu. So they can have their own transportation system without the intervention of the national government, the Department of Transportation, or even Neda. So hindi ba ho pwedeng taasan na lang, gawin na
Ang baba ho ng 200 million, Your Honor. Oh. Especially for a city, a rich city. That's just a few days revenue, I think, for them.
updated na po.
Yeah. I think, maybe we have to revisit the BOT law, Senator. And I
I'd like
think
to
it's
acknowledge our majority leader, Senator Joel, who is here just to catch the questions of Senator Tolentino. So,
right. So I think the amendment of the BOT law is part of the priority legislation that was submitted for Congress. So maybe there, Senator, you can.
what's the origin, if you don't mind, with your permission? Ano origin ng 200 million and what's the
It's
legal
in the,
basis
it's
for
in
that?
the law, I believe.
It's a
the
law.
BOT
Oh,
law.
wow, we have to amend or index it at least.
Yeah. So, that's what. So it.
Updated na yun. The reason why I'm reiterating that is because we have just created the Metro Davao Development Authority. It's a coastal metropolitan area that would probably in the long run have their own ferry system, have their own train system. So hindi na ho maiiwasan to eh. Hindi na ho maiiwasan to. And they know what would be needed in their local jurisdiction. Tiga roon sila eh. Isa magpadala pa ho to. Hindi ko minamaliit yung inyong kagalingan. Magpapadala pa ng tao ang NEDA, di ba? Mas alam po ng mga local kung ano yung pangangailangan nila doon. Just an intervention, Mr. Chairman, sasabihin ko uli yan, pero I think that on your part, there should be recommendations to amend the BOT, PPP, policies, and then if that is really a legal provision, 200 million cap, that should likewise be amended. Outdated na po yun.
In your hands, Your Honor. I mean, and it's
Submit to us recommendations. What would you like?
Yeah. No, yeah. So we put it there. It's we will separate the amendment of that law, and it's in the LEDAC. It's going to be in the LEDAC. Yeah.
Sir, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you
Mr.
for
Chair.
that very important intervention, Vice
Thank
Chair Senator Francis Tolentino. So it's the BOT law, just to clarify?
Yes.
It's in the BOT law,
yeah.
200 million. Anong year ba yun? 90s yun eh, no? 95 or something?
Yeah.
94, oh, yeah, I remember. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, and we are
it's
also-
30 years old, no?
Yeah.
Then it's not indexed. There's no indexation there,
Yeah.
so next time we should amend it. We should place
Yeah, we
some time.
should have the
Maybe indexation every 5 years or something like
Yeah.
that. Okay, yeah, go. Thank you,
Thank you, thank
Your Honor. Go ahead.
All right, so let me continue, Your Honor. POPCOM, as I said earlier, POPCOM has focused on advocacy and responsible parenthood and family planning and referred and served couples and individuals with unmet family planning needs.
The permission of our colleagues, maybe we can relieve the secretary from reading his presentation since these are all on record, and our colleagues, if there's no objection, you can skip through that and proceed to the budgetary requirements of the agencies, Your Honor.
That should be lovely, Your Honor. Thank you.
It's
Thank
a
you.
win-win, Your Honor.
Right, thank you so much. Okay, so let me then proceed to the slide and the budget requested by NEDA and its attached agencies, Your Honor, and that is in the okay, that's the slide there for the DBM recommended budget for NEDA and its attached agencies for 2023 is 13.27 billion pesos, Your Honor. It's note that that's 6.04% lower compared to our 2022 But let's also note that PSA, our accounts for uh, for the biggest decrease in the budget, no? From 11.1 billion to 9.87 billion pesos. That lower budget can be attributed to the accomplishments or to the components of the PhilSys, which were already conducted and procured in 2022, as well as the non-approval of ICT
With your permission, Secretary, we'd like to acknowledge the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, and also our former Speaker, former Majority Leader of this chamber, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. Good afternoon, Your Honors.
Good afternoon, Your Honors.
Kung ginaw na ginaw.
All right.
Go ahead, Secretary.
Okay. The Office of the Secretary of Neda registered an increase of 22.74% compared to the 2022 GAA. This mainly for the continuation or for the building improvement project amounting to 393 million pesos. As you can see in the slide, Your Honor, almost all the attached agencies registered a decrease in their budget.
With your indulgence, Secretary, I'll just recognize Senator Alan because he has to attend another hearing. He'll just put his question on record and he'll appreciate an answer from anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to our former chair, Senator Loren ng Finance Committee, and of course, someone we admire sa ating Secretary and Minority Leader. Sa akin lang, Sec, I'm very interested in your life's work about opportunities in the Philippines, wealth distribution. So maybe before the plenary, if you can, both from your point of view and from NEDA's point of view, ano ba talaga ang distribution of wealth more than the ABCDE categorization in our country? Kasi I think, di ba, garbage in, garbage out. So kung mali ang pagkaintindi natin sa distribution of wealth and opportunities, and I'm not only talking about individuals, families, but also per region, mali din ang magiging approach natin. So maybe you can enlighten us, me in particular, on your views regarding that. And then from there siguro, sa different departments, we'll also see whether nga the data you give us and the insights you give us, whether tama yung approach ng mga yon. So one quick example, no, I'm going to run to a PhilHealth hearing, and I am very much supportive of yung gusto ng presidente na yung mga heart center, lung center, kidney and transplant institute ay magkaroon din sa Northern Luzon, Southern Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, di ba? But it will also be good to see this vis-a-vis nga, di ba? Looking at where the money is or where it isn't around the country. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies to my colleagues to...
You're willing to give the Secretary a few days to answer that? Para comprehensive po yung sagot niya.
Even until the
Plenary.
the end of the month, kasi ang plenary naman natin November. But I think he's done exhaustive work on that, whether he was in government or not. So I'd be interested, you know. Or if you point me in the right direction kung anong dapat basahin, I'm also willing to read them.
Mas maganda yung
I would be very happy to discuss this with
but maybe have a short submission, Mr. Secretary, for
because this is a
also,
subject matter that has been the object of my work as a scholar in the university for the last 3 decades. And this issue on inclusion and poverty and wealth inequity. I would love to discuss that.
Thank you, Secretary. Go ahead, sir, please.
As I mentioned earlier, all the agencies except for 2, that's the NEDA proper and Popcom, shows a decline in the budget being proposed Your Honor. And let me point out some salient features of this budget. In the next slide, we show the breakdown of the PSA budget proposal based on the NEP. We highlight PSA here because PSA takes the lion's share of our budget. But as you can see, the activities of the PSA, the bulk of that would be in the completion of the Philippine identification system, or the IDCs, PhilSys, and the various censuses and surveys that would have to be done next year, including the census of agriculture and fisheries, which is a census done once every decade, So that's a very important census that we must not miss. So those are the two major items there, Mr. Chair, in the PSA's budget. So basically a big chunk of the requested budgets for the completion of these various surveys and censuses that will help inform our policies and decisions and many aspects of governance and development. And the Neda OSEC, where we also show some increase for next year. We would like to note that increase had to do with the rehabilitation of the old building of Neda in its headquarters. That rehabilitation is going to happen in stages, and what we are asking for next year is just a part of that capital outlay that we would need for a couple of years. Then if the other attached agencies, the budget for the attached agencies, Popcom, PPP Center, PIDS, PVN, VSCA are also detailed there, Your Honor. I just wanted to note that in the case of PIDS, what is requested here is just the MOE because their salaries are not covered by GAA. No? Yeah. All right. So more or less. So I'm okay. We are ready to entertain any questions, Your Honor, with
Questions from our colleagues, Your Honors.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
do we listen to the presentation first? Because I have questions, but for later, or are we allowed to just ask at any time? Perhaps. we
Well,
should listen
the
first.
usual procedure is to finish all the, but in extraordinary, like today, we allowed Senator Tolentino
Okay.
and Senator
I would observe
Cayetano.
the
If
usual.
you would
I
you
would-
prefer what's your preference? We can
I would observe the
Yeah.
usual and listen to the presentation.
all the
first.
presentations.
Yes.
Maybe Senator Pictor wants to intervene in the. How many more Let's finish the.
Your Honor, because as I said,
Yeah, because they mentioned all the different budgets of the agencies
I
already.
just highlighted the changes in the budget, Your Honor.
Yes, certainly. You have the floor, Senate President Pro Temp, our former chair, very
Thank you.
veteran legislator.
You'll recall, Mr. Chair and our Minority Leader, I think you were also co-authors when we passed the Innovation Act in 2019, and then the pandemic happened. And I understand, of course, that there were other priorities during the pandemic. So may I know whether, because I don't see a huge amount in the NEP for the Innovation Fund, and in the years that it was funded, it was 100 million or less. So may I
I
know,
think the initial funding was or even realigned to, because we inserted the first year of implementation. We realigned, it was realigned during the
Bayanihan?
Bayanihan, yeah.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Tama, di ba?
There was 300M in 2020, 200.
Congressional insertion actually kasi wala rin sa NEP.
To 2021, there was 200. So I just want to know, because this is a very important law for 99% of our MSMEs, for our economy, and both NEDA, I think, and the DTI are the implementing agencies. So may I hear, please, from the NEDA leadership, how are we going to implement it? What kind of support are we giving this 3-year-old law? We have 116.1 million allocated, I think. Can you clarify? This is the innovation fund, but we of course know that it's not the fund only that we are asking about. No, let me see. 2020 had 300 million, okay, but for next year it's 116. So may I just hear from the secretary, how important is this 3-year-old law which has not yet been implemented, and what is your role as opposed to DTI in its implementation? Can it be the driver of our pandemic recovery, our sustainable pandemic recovery? Can it be actually the impetus that can spur the recovery of our ailing MSMEs who've been hit hard by the pandemic and the global economic crisis? Sec. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. NEDA is serving now as the Secretariat of the Innovation Council, and the secretary is the vice chair of the council, Your Honor. You know, the president being the chair. We have organized already a staff, a dedicated staff that will serve that council. The innovation, I would like to believe, should be at the heart and center of our development strategy, because after all, what drives sustainability and productivity over the long haul is innovation. So napaka-importante ito yun. It's not just for SMEs, for every aspects of our socioeconomic life. So that's why initially we budgeted 317 to be able to move beyond what we started with, which is to just have a small fund that kind of triggers some activities already by way of giving grants to agencies, initially with agencies who may have ideas about solving ordinary or problems. But what is given to us, Your Honor, for next year is only 116. We understand the budget constraint, so we didn't really push it hard. But if there would have been more resources that I think would be able to append the activities of the council. What I am really I discussed, Your Honor, with my staff on how to start the ball rolling in a way that even with very limited resources, we can hope to achieve much, and that is to launch to use the small resources to launch a kind of an assessment of the innovation environment, so that we'll be able to identify the key constraints that we will need to address the issues on why we have very little innovation activities going on. And because we do see that if I look at the way the economy is moving, Your Honor, there's very little innovation going on. It's just more the usual factors of production, land, labor, capital. Yeah, but
Tama po kayo. Kaya nga po, napaka-timely ng batas na ito, di ba? For example, even in just one section alone, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chair, the establishment of research, development, and extension programs, that would apply to agriculture, of which no less than the president is a secretary, establishing centers of research excellence to bring together multi-stakeholder teams to address multidisciplinary research agenda, perhaps even a collaboration with state universities and colleges can be had. We can establish centers of collaborative research activities between the academe and business. So I think even just reading portions of one section of this very important law, I think we just implement this, kaya po natin agapan ang economic crisis at ang ating sustainable pandemic recovery. We just really need NEDA to spearhead it. Of course, with the DTI, this, I believe, is so important. And I believe that every aspect and every department of government can use innovation as their way forward. Tama po kayo. Nakita lang natin, we do things the way we usually do. O ganyan. Kailangan magbago na. At ito nga ang magiging kakaiba sa ating pag-ahon po. So may I ask the NEDA, what have you done since the enactment of this law? I am certain, bago po kayo, I understand, those who have been in NEDA before you, sir, may perhaps give you the information on what they've done in the past years, but we understand the 2-year pandemic. Now, moving forward for 2023, with such a measly budget, which I'm sure the chair would consider amending, you have a proposal how to operationalize this important law. And even if it's not lodged in your agency, sir, I am certain that the other agencies can use their funds since it's a council of many other agencies, right? DTI have their own funds as long as we mainstream innovation, right, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I completely agree, ma'am, with that. And we do, I have very strong interest myself in this field because innovation is understood to be the driver of sustained growth and development. That's what brings about increases in productivity on a sustained basis. So, and we see many indications that we see from comparative country comparisons that napaka-little yung efforts natin sa innovation, and that's clearly related to how our economy is performing in relation to our neighbors. Just nga lang, kahit R&D lang ho, yung, the amount of money that our country is giving to R&D, we are one of the lowest in our region, so as a proportion of our GDP. Kaya nga, itong 116 million for innovation, that's so little, but again, we understand the current constraints, but I think we can do much more if we have better resources, Madam.
We would like to see more support perhaps for startups. We would like to see innovation hubs. We would like to see technology programs and innovation centers, as I mentioned, and cluster policies, human capacity building programs. Ang dami po, ang ganda-ganda po ng batas. Sana po ang mga implementing agencies, namely NEDA and DTI, can really look into it and give us concrete programs that we can help you with to implement. It is a very well-intentioned law. I just wish we could take a second look at it so that possible amendments with the chair's concurrence could be had if we see its importance, especially in our post-pandemic recovery, sir. So perhaps what you could submit to the committee would be a mainstreaming and operationalization and convergence with other agencies like SUCs, the OST, DA, DTI, who's a co-chair of the council for their MSME programs, so that we can operationalize it. And there are budgets lodged in this agencies, so it does not necessarily mean that 116 million for 2023 is the only budget for the implementation of this law. Just like, for example, ihalintulad ko po sa climate, like it's not just the budget climate in the Climate Change Commission, what we mainstream it in all departments. Same with innovation. I think innovation must be mainstreamed, whether we are in DepEd in the OST or in DA. That's what I mean, sir. So perhaps Neda can reach out, since you're the secretariat, to all agencies and to give us the programs and budgets allocated to innovation if they have read the law. Kasi pinsan po, gumagawa kami ng batas at nangyayari ito na hindi po alam ng mga ahensya na yun ang mandato nila. Kaya po, yung President's budget o yung NEP ay maliit. They may not have a full appreciation of the law that the Senate or Congress enacts. I'm not saying that you don't appreciate it. Hindi po. On some instances. That is the reason why in the other committee hearing that I attended in migrant workers, let me just cite an example, that there were conventions and treaties that we had conferred in the Senate relevant to migrant workers since 2015, which are not being yet mainstreamed because there's just too much information and OFWs may not know their protection of their rights are there because of the concurrence in those treaties. Same thing with here, with this one. It's a very beautiful law, if I may say, and if we mainstream this in the government agencies, that I think could spell some kind of a difference, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I will pursue this, Your Honor. In fact, what I was earlier discussing with my staff is to take a broad look of the entire innovation landscape of the country, identify what those constraints are, and come up with a roadmap to mainstream the innovation in our governance structure, architecture, Your Honor, and then even in our development. Our PDP for 2023-2028 has a lot of innovation in floating in various places because we are looking at innovation and technology as a major driver for that 2023 to 2028 plan, Your Honor. But I still see that I want to see nga yung mga specific activities that can spur innovative activities by perhaps from the universities, from research centers, from entrepreneurs, and I think that having a mainstreaming the effort would go a long way in implementing the law.
Thank you for your agreement to our proposal, sir, and we would appreciate receiving perhaps a report from Neda in coordination with the other agencies of government who are already implementing this, and if they're not, perhaps we could make them aware of this 3-year-old unimplemented law so that, because I will ask the same questions of the other agencies. Sayang po ang magandang batas. Just for the record, this is an original bill of the Senate. There was an APEC meeting, I think, in 2015, and this is the output of the APEC meeting. It was put together, and me and some consultants and staff wrote it, and I'm so glad it was prioritized in the Congress of 2019, and I think it was Senator Gatchalian who sponsored it in his committee. So I would appreciate receiving support from the NEDA, which is the Secretariat for this Innovation Act. Thank you, sir.
I will update you on our work, Your Honor. Yeah.
It goes beyond just a report.
Yeah.
I'm certain the Secretary would agree that this, moving forward, would be beneficial to our people for it to be implemented, sir.
You don't have to convince me on that, ma'am. That's precisely what I teach for the last 3 decades in at UP in development economics. It's innovation. It's the importance of innovation. So I very much it is my advocacy. So it's,
I yield first to the chair and the other senators. Then I will ask my questions again later. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senior Vice Chair Legarda, Senate President Pro Temp. Now we turn it over to Minority Leader Senator Coco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
These are just questions to understand better the budgets for NEDA and the attached agencies. Commission on Population and Development. Ito po ba, Secretary? 542 million. Round it off na lang. 542 million pesos ang budget po niya, more or less. Tama, no? May I know, dear, what is the mandate of this agency, Mr. Secretary?
It's more in support of mainstreaming population in development, particularly in providing access of couples, particular to family planning services.
So basically, the amount will be spent on, ano yung parang, yung, ano to? Ano yung main activity niya? Yeah. Hindi, Popcom to census yata iba sa PSA yun, sa tanong. So 542 million pesos, aside from siyempre paying the salaries, would go to
First, Your Honor, let me first note that the POPCOM is mandated to formulate and adopt coherent, integrated, and comprehensive long-term plans, programs, and recommendations on population and family planning as it relates to economic and social development. Very broad. Yeah.
plans, ano to, reports. Ang output nito, ganun, plans, reports. But of course, behind the plans and the reports are studies, surveys, ganun. Ganun ba yan?
And they do also distribute commodities. So
They distribute
yeah,
the commodities.
yes,
Hindi
yes,
hindi
access to family through
Hindi DOH.
in cooperation with DOH. So because they have a joint program.
So okay, the 542 million includes the distribution of the commodities but not the procurement of the commodities.
The procurement.
Sino po ba? Who will be? Mr. Tacardon, yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ayan pala, dito.
The procurement is with DOH, Your Honor. And we just help through co-management scheme, the distribution of commodities from the regional hubs to the health facilities, Your Honor.
Ulit, DOH procures, the deliveries are done to DOH warehouses. Tama?
No, Your Honor. The commodities are lodged to the Popcom warehouse.
Sa inyo na.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that's why you need the budget to move these items
Yes.
from your warehouse after DOH procures them to your warehouse to the ultimate user.
Health facilities.
So the health facility
Public,
pa.
public health facilities.
Barangay, is this barangay health facility, barangay level?
Usually, Your Honor, it's at the provincial level.
Provincial level. Okay, and then expenses from provincial level to the ultimate user, kaninong budget na yon?
Usually, it's the provincial, the province na, Your Honor.
Province budget na yan. Okay, so basta at least nakita ko lang. Bakit kaya sinama pa kayo doon sa, ba't sinama pa kaya ang Popcom? Ba't di na lang from DOH procuring it then directly to province?
Yeah, Your Honor, because previously, Your Honor, kasama talaga po dun sa ano po ng DOH, but it's mixed with the other drugs po kasi and other medicines before the family planning commodities are distributed. So since the movement of the family planning commodities are very important, we agreed with DOH po to separately for Popcom to distribute po yung commodities in separately with other drugs. Usually po
Yeah,
kasi
teka, yeah. Procurement ng DOH, marami. Population control commodities are segregated, assigned to Popcom. And your role is parang courier kayo from your warehouse to the province. But after delivery to the province, wala na rin kayo pakialam kung ihalo niya ulit yan from the other drugs coming from DOH. Ganun po ba yun?
No, Your Honor, we also track the distribution from the province to ensure that all public health facilities have available commodities. So usually we also reposition po
You track up to what level? Barangay?
public health facilities po through the cities and municipalities.
Yeah, public health facility is the what we call the facility. Pero saan siya? What level siya? What's it? Controlled by the province?
Usually the report comes from directly from the city and municipalities, Your Honor.
City and municipality. So you track them yung na-distribute na ba? Ganun, ilan
Opo.
na? So anong track record natin? Ano ba binibili natin dito? Mga condom, ganon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Bayan yun eh. Tapos,
Pills, injectables.
so yun na nga. So kumusta po ang, although the budget to procure is not with you, klaro yun, ano?
Yes, Your Honor.
But you're part of the custody chain or supply chain
chain
so that the
management.
people can access the goods.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are the people accessing the goods?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Actually,
Are the people using? Are the people clamoring for the goods? Are they requesting for the goods? Nagtataka si Chair, ayoko na lang magsalita.
yes, actually, Your Honor. We have actually good news for that because as of 2021, Your Honor, we already have reached around 8 million current users of family planning methods. So, and to our surprise, even during the pandemic, Your Honor, tumaas po ang demand for family planning commodities.
Kasi yung amount sa DOH na namin titignan ngayon yan. So, basta may expense naman yung yun yung sa inyo, yung expense din diyan. But the burden, do we give the disproportional share of the burden to observe family planning on females? I mean, ano ba yung commodities mo for anong tawag mo doon? Designed for female use, karamihan dyan?
Yes, Your Honor, most of the
so
family
good.
planning methods are for females. For males, we only have the condom and vasectomy.
Hindi na kayo yun.
Yeah,
Kayo?
Your Honor.
Procedure yun eh.
Yeah, or
Wala na procedure, no? That's not, you don't, you do not,
service na po yun. in mga hospitals na po siya.
Sige, anyway, may report naman siguro niyan, sir, no? ED, may report naman dyan sa,
Yes, Your Honor.
kasi inisip ko na, siguro regular funding sa DOH yan, I'm sure hundreds of millions din yan eh. I mean, tapos ilan kaya kasi tinanong ko sila sa DOH budget, expiring medicines, expiring vaccines, hindi ko natanong kung may expiring condoms. Ano, sagot, meron no? Dami no?
Actually, Your Honor, mas marami ang stock out.
Ha?
Mas maraming stock out for family
Stock out?
planning.
Anong term?
Meaning kulang yung natin. Yeah.
Kulang.
Kulang po ang yan. No?
Just
Lumakas ba yung demand nung pandemic?
Yes, Your Honor.
Lumakas yung demand for...
To our surprise.
no, just to put
We were giving our Senate President Pro Temp a condom education 101. Sabi ko sa kanya, nag-expire din yan di ba? Kahit na nag-expire din yata, may nag-expire din yan.
Asking the chair about its disposition because
Robert.
of RA 9003, because you said if there was so much wastage, but apparently there's a shortage, not a wastage.
Yeah, just if I may, Your Honor, just to put a bit of context here, the family planning is part of our poverty reduction tools, no? Because if there is a very high unmet need among the low-income groups, and obviously any study will show you a very high correlation and in fact causation between large family sizes and poverty. And so they were trying to mainstream family planning population issues into development so that we can put a better hold on that part of the program.
Have we noticed a trend, Secretary? When we increase the procurement budget for family planning commodities, did the size of the average Filipino family go down? Is that
What is clear, I don't have that data with me, Your Honor, but what is clear is that the unmet need as shown by our demographic surveys is very high, especially among lowest income groups.
needs? Ano pong ibig
So,
sabihin nun?
individuals would, there is a demand among couples for access to family planning services, but those services are not available.
Okay. So we captured this in one of the
Yeah, yes, yeah.
surveys of the PSA. Ano, siguro. Okay, so, pero, yun na nga, we tried to meet the needs, because yun na nga yung big debate on DRH, di ba? Tapos buhos nga ng budget eh. So when we met a portion of the unmet needs, we met them because of that. Did we notice any? Did we notice a dipping or sa charts natin?
There are studies of Population Institute in UP that suggest that there's this gap between the desired number of children and the actual number of children, and access to family planning services reduce that gap.
So this desired and actual, okay, mas maliit si desired, mas malaki si actual.
Kasi ang
Okay.
ordinary families naman, even among the poor, Your Honor, actually want a smaller family size.
Lumiit.
But because they don't have access to family planning services, they end up with a large family size, which put them into perpetual cycle of poverty.
Oo nga, tama po yun, Secretary. At least, yun, you have a study na which the conclusion is that, yung
There are
statement.
many studies that,
Kasi,
even at the United Nations,
No,
Philippine
Philippine
Philippines,
Philippine
we
context
have
tayo
studies.
parati kasi mahirap yung sa labas eh. So, okay, kung may study tayo na gano'n, naka-footnote naman yan, tingnan na lang natin. Kasi Mr. Chairman, naawa nga ako at saka nalungkot ako dun sa balitang siguro a couple of weeks ago. Yung 4-year-old girl o child, basta 4-year-old child begging on our streets. Siyempre, nabundol, patay. Nabasa ko yan, 4 years. Sabi mo, ang buhay ng bata, only given yung gift of life yun, 4 years. Yun lang experience niya sa mundo, 4 years. And then nabasa ko, the parents did not even care for the death certificate anymore. Bali wala. So hindi ko na alam yung what was not stated in the report, no? Pero kawawa, I mean, well, that's sad state of our country. Kaya na nangyari. So parang ano na rin siya, para siyang tool, pang begging tool lang, ginamit lang pang-beg. So anyway, thank you for the information on the Popcom. I'm just asking for information, sir, para lang mas maintindihan ko po itong group of agencies po ninyo. How about this? I know may slides pero marami kasi laman. I just want the essence of the agency. For example, the Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency. 32, close to 33 million ang di ba, requested budget for that. What is the essence of this agency, sir? What does it do?
Okay, I will,
Yes, sir, Gawe.
Your Honor. The Philippine National Volunteer Service Coordinating Agency, maybe this is one of the least known agencies in government, but it was actually established in 1964 as a committee, and later on it became an agency in the 1980s. And we actually have a law, Volunteer Act of 2007, which strengthened the mandate of PNVSCA purposely to promote volunteerism as a way of life of every Filipino, and volunteerism as a development strategy. So our mandate is mostly on policy coordination, um, providing technical assistance on volunteering engagement. And this is what we are more popularly known of. We act as clearinghouse for incoming international volunteers, as well as Filipinos who are volunteering outside. And as I've said, advocacy of volunteerism as development strategy.
Okay, so parang DFA kayo sa volunteerism pala.
Aspekto ng
But
volunteerism.
yung volunteerism inside,
Uh,
volunteerism of Filipinos for inside, for Philippine consumption. Wala kayong program na ganun.
It's more of advocacy and technical assistance. For
So
example,
what is your best known advocacy?
our advocacy is that volunteerism, if this is more organized, not the spontaneous volunteerism, like anybody can do volunteering act. I have a neighbor who is in need. I help him.
Okay, man. Do you place media, do you place advertisements to encourage this kind of behavior?
Yeah, unfortunately, with very limited budget, we are not placing.
Kasi wala eh. Kasi sa sagot mga sa akin, ang more of international volunteers, you screen them, and then Filipinos who want to volunteer going out. Okay.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
But if we don't have a spirit of volunteerism as part of our everyday life, are there really Filipinos volunteering for outside?
Yes, in
Sino po ito, tsaka saan pa ang example?
right now, we only have two international volunteering or three international volunteering organizations who are supporting Filipinos going outside. One is the UN. The second is the Volunteer Service Overseas. Although due to fund constraint, medyo wala na sila masyadong pinapadala. And we have a local global initiative for international exchange. This is based in Cebu. It has a lot of partners, and they are supporting Filipinos who are volunteering outside the Philippines.
Kaya pala, Secretary, napansin ko, ito lang yung meron siyang financial expenses eh. May 8,000 siya eh, financial expenses. It reminded me of the DFA budget eh. Kaya siguro, tama ba ito? Because of, exchange rate, something? Ano
Yes, yes. But
8,000 ka rito eh.
yeah.
Tama po ba yun?
Yeah. This,
So what is it?
for-
In actuality, what is that? That's 8,000 pesos na amount.
Ito yung sa banks, sa bangko.
Bangko. Okay, pero
Phoenix.
lahat naman may bangko. Bakit kayo lang po yung may entry na
Yeah.
foreign exchange? Hindi. Sila lang kasi yung may financial expense. Parang may litong-litong ako rito. 8,000. Sila lang.
Kasi ito lang yung budget namin, kaya kahit maliit ay rine-reflect.
Hindi ko alam. Sige sir, ano na lang yung short, ano nito? Ano ba ito? Itong 8,000 pesos na financial expense column. Which I've noticed for your agency, and
Yeah, this is the yung sa banks, Mr. Chair. I think
ano
all
si
papers
interest?
is,
What is this? Hindi ko naintindihan.
Yeah. Wait.
At saka budget pala ito, budget for you to spend. So you mean say you're authorized to spend 8,000 as financial expense.
These are the bank,
8,000 pesos lang to, di ba?
these are the finance charges sa bank,
Is this?
bank charges.
Yeah, this is in actual amount, right? Hindi to in thousands, hindi to 8 million, this is 8,000, tama?
Yes.
Yeah, this is 8,000. Okay. Anyway, sige na po.
Stands out for its curiosity.
Yeah,
Can you just write to my office so that I will understand? Kasi gano'n na pagka-present ng ano nyo, budget ninyo eh.
yeah,
Hindi ko lang, kayo lang yung meron eh. May entry sa financial
Yeah.
expense eh.
I-
It's 8,000 pesos.
I guess all the agencies have expenses such as this, but since our agency is a very small agency, kahit ganitong ka-minute detail, it has been reflected here in our.
Hindi usually kasi by expense tayo sir, Mr. Chairman, per PS, MOE, tsaka capital outlay.
It's the outlier.
Okay. Kayo may financial expense. The only other agency na nakita ko na may fourth column sila would be DFA. Meron silang fourth column because of the... kaya nga, yun lang, natanong, kasi sa explanation mo sa akin, ganun kayo, international di ka rin eh. Oh, so is it, just write to my office na lang, sir, tanongin nyo na lang, ano sagot dito?
Yes, sir, but
sige.
according to my our accountant, this is simply for the check booklets. Yeah. Mm. So as I've said, since
MOE yan?
it has been maybe we have been following some certain tradition. That is why it is itemized separately.
Taken the extra step of
It has been itemized.
isolating the 8,000
Yeah,
as a
kasi wala nang
financial expense.
ibang mailagay sa 32 million lang. So
Congratulations, Secretary, ha? Hanggang some agencies attached to your group.
Yeah.
Galing. Kayo lang yung naging ganyan
It's a,
detalyado, which I appreciate.
hindi lang line item yan,
Ay.
Mr. Zeta. It's extra super line item.
Which I appreciate.
Specify.
Kasi sometimes, the more curious you are, the happier your life is. Okay? So itong PPP, alam na naman natin siguro ito, PPP, no? Ako din Philippine. Ito sir, itong Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute. Ano naman po ito? We have 63 million, tama, for next year's budget. Can we get the, ano na lang, ma'am? Yeah, what's the essence of our work in government?
Yes, Your Honor. The Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute is actually an agency of Neda that conducts statistical research and trainings to all government agencies that is part of the Philippine Statistical System, sir. Philippine Statistical System po. It's a policy-making body that uses statistics in their functions po. LGUs po included because they also made part of their comprehensive development plan some statistics po.
Mr. Chairman, masarap na mga kausap na for example, busy ako kanina, nagte-text, ini-interview kasi ako ng media Doon naman sa, what is the odds of 433 winning bettors in a 655 lotto game? Sabi ko, for a combination to come out, 1 in 28.9 million. Pero for 433 to hit it, hindi ko na alam anong formula dyan, Secretary. Maybe Ms. Peña can do it. Basta a friend of mine said it's in the quintillions already. So anyway, kaya mga dapat kausap natin. Pero, so you provide the research and training. Sa PSA is a big user of your services, di ba? Definitely. Okay, sige. Good. So PSA, kasi ang PSA, you get the bulk of the total, ano ba ito? Pagkaintindi ko rito. 13.2 billion for the group. Yeah, PSA 9.8 billion. And then from the presentation, akala ko it's the national ID, but hindi lang, but national ID is around 2 billion. And then there's the secretary mentioned a very important once in a decade census, which is agriculture.
Agriculture and fisheries.
What do we hope to achieve with that? Ano pong lalabas po doon na information?
Well, thank you very much, Your Honor. No, so first, as you mentioned, the functions of the PSA is not just limited to the national ID. So we're doing censuses, and next year we'll be doing the census of agriculture and fisheries. So ano to, Mr. Chair, no, Your Honor, we go to barangays and identify who are the households that are engaged in farming and fishing, and we get yung size ng area, value production, so those information. So that would serve actually as a base in future surveys. So kasi sa census, we do it every 10 years, but we do a monthly survey of farmers and fisher folks in terms of their value production, and we report it on a quarterly basis. So that is one of the big item in our 2023 budget. In addition, Your Honor, we are also doing the usual surveys. So for example, we are doing the economic. Just today, we reported inflation. We're doing the family income and expenditure survey, which is the source of the poverty, official poverty estimates. And we are also in charge of the civil registration, Your Honor, and of course, generation of the different official statistics like GDP at the national level, GDP at the regional level, provincial level, and highly urbanized cities level. So we are actually bringing down the measurement of the gross domestic product down to the highly urbanized cities so that this will be used for planning. And we are also into environmental accounts. No, we are starting estimating this different activities. So yung bulk talaga ng work ng PSA is really on the statistics because that's our main business, Philippine Statistics Authority. Yung national ID is really the last, the one of the two. Yung last na on board sa amin, yung community-based monitoring system. So it's really an agency that collects and generates statistics, Your Honor. Thank you.
Yung di ko maalala, yung mga certificates ba sa inyo rin ba yung kinukuha?
Yes, Your Honor, yung mga civil registration, the SECPA, yung birth certificate, marriage,
And security paper,
yes,
ganun.
security
So you maintain this national databases?
Correct, Your Honor. And we report ilan na yung ating mga kababayan na may birth certificate and so on. So that's part of our function on the civil registration service.
Mabigat itong agency na ito. And you're always busy, di ba? Kasi kahit sinabi mo na once in a decade yung agriculture and fishery survey, but there are in between that decade, you have mandated surveys for other subject matters.
Correct. Even in the fisheries and farming, Your Honor, we report on a quarterly basis yung value production in agriculture and fisheries. So yung mga crops, livestock, all of this.
Ito sir, example ko yan dun sa aming sugar fiasco investigation. May ginamit kaming statistics doon. Kunyari, 80, i-round off ko na lang, 80% daw of the sugar farmers own 5 hectares or less. Sa inyo galing yung information
Yes,
na yan?
the SRA would utilize our data, Your Honor.
So yun, kasi siyempre when we make decisions or so we really have to trust your work. So next question ko, how trustworthy is your work?
The Philippine Statistics Authority, as the central authority of the Philippine government on statistics, we are professional statisticians, Your Honor. So our objective is really to report accurate.
What if the field is not cooperative?
No,
The household
we have, Your Honor, under the law, the Philippine Statistical Act, ito kasi mga surveys ay kailangan talaga nila mag-participate. Mataas naman yung aming response rate, Your Honor, sa households and even firms. That's why we are even helping other agencies in terms of their surveys, like the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the Philippine Competition Commission, and the PIDS. By the way, PSA is the one doing the survey of innovation activities for the PIDS.
So is the work of the PS, is there any way to audit the work of the PSA as to ano bang tawag mo dyan? Reliability ba yan or accuracy? Pero sa survey, meron kasing, di ba, na confidence level, parang gano'n eh. Parang may mga 95% confidence level, may mga so
Report that, Your Honor, and of course this is validated, not all, but in terms of the other reports of private enterprises. Like for example, in the inflation rate that we reported this morning, which is 6.9%, that is within the range of the BSP na 6.7 to 7.4 yata, which is an independent assessment. And there are other, of course, private entities that are also doing their assessment. But of course, the official number will come from the Philippine Statistics Authority.
no, pero that's not the auditing that I was referring to. Is there a conscious way to audit it? Kasi ibig sabihin nun, kung within the range, happy ka. You are reinforcing each other. Pero kung outside of the range ka, sabihin nun, mali ka. Hindi naman sabihin na mali ka, di ba? Pero because if that's the auditing way, then we will always want to be.
No, Your Honor, I'm just saying that the numbers that are being reported by PSA are treated by the other government agencies and private sector as the official and recently
Kaya nga napaka-importante nga eh. I will go to inflation later kung gaano kayo kahalaga. But Secretary, I just want that just assurance that the work of our professionals, our experts, are also being reviewed or by their peers. Ang tawag siguro dyan. Yes,
Yeah.
Secretary.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Your Honor. Let me point out that the statistical practices that we employ here in the Philippines follow the international international convention and statistics. That's why the way we gather data, the way we define certain variables conform to international standards, and we are part of the international system of statistics, and they do also check the integrity of our system. That's why there is probably no other agency in government where we stick to our data, and because if it gets infected by by political interventions, then we lose the credibility. And once we lose the credibility, even our ability to get to conduct surveys will be already affected. For example, if the public knows that we are sharing our data that we collect from individuals, they would no longer want to participate. So even if people ask, even within government, ask for the unit record data and the individual survey, we don't. We didn't provide that because that will destroy the integrity of the system.
It's also a violation of the Privacy Act, di ba? Yeah. I have with the indulgence of Senator Minority Leader Coco, I just want to ask about, you mentioned earlier that there are provincial statistics for PSA. Because I remember when I was acting chair of labor back in 2015 or 2016, I noticed the statistics for employment per province was very general. Parang wala ngang, hindi siya disaggregated into manufacturing, tourism, etc. Do we now do that? Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you explain just briefly explain how detailed do we go?
Okay, Your Honor, yung survey kasi natin, particularly labor force survey, mula ng 2021 ay nag-monthly na tayo, ano? At sa buong taon, napakalaki ng ating sample. It would reach more than 250,000 households. So in 2021, dati ang ating aggregation ay nasa national level and regional level. But starting 2021, we can now
high, no? It's a high 250,000. What's the low of sample?
Isang month, Your Honor, mga 11,000 households. So yun, pag let's say
province?
Para ano lang yun, Your Honor, pag sinabi nating 11,000, national level lang.
National,
Oo,
okay.
Tapos pag mga 44,000, pwede na siyang mag-national and regional.
But what's the smallest sample you have for a small province? For
Okay, yung small province, let's say ang ating labor force survey sa family income and expenditure survey, umaabot ng mga between 1.2 to 1.5 households. So pwede na tayong makapag-estimate doon. Ginagawa na po namin yun.
Okay. And how detailed do you go per industry, per
We go at the national level because of course you have a bigger sample, so we go by sector. So you have the industry, services, and agriculture, plus the sub industries within a particular major industry group, like we go manufacturing. Pero pagbaba na siguro, Your Honor, sa province kasi medyo maliit na.
tourism?
May tourism yan under that sector. So nakukuha naman po namin.
Can I just request for that?
Yes,
I
we can
think Senator Legardo wanted to say something. Go
We
ahead.
can provide a copy, Your Honor.
With your indulgence, yeah. Is it on statistics? Is it on the Philippine statistics?
Mine is on Pencast.
Let's finish muna the
Not
statistics siguro.
total accounting, but you can finish yours.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for the
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So DPSA is the official government agency which announces the inflation rate.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay, napaka-importante po niyan. Bakit? Kasi nakikita ko yung trend namin, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, the trend is in loss to peg to peg some rates on inflation. Hanggang meron tayong trend na gano'n eh. Now we are adopting provisions of law na we provide for a rate, and then the adjustments to the rate we peg on inflation, on the official inflation rate. Ganyan po kahalaga ang PSA. Kasi when you now implement that law, as to the percentage, hindi na sinabi kung ano, because it will come from the PSA. So that's very, very, your role is very critical, is more critical now. Even in the laws, you will be influencing the application of some laws which have ito na yung trend to peg it on inflation. Actually, against ako ron. Against ako ron kasi there must be parang na inano na ni parang in-outsource na ni legislature yung computation of the adjustment of the rates to the PSA. And then for example, itong what's the inflation rate for the month ba? 6.9 sabi niyo pa?
Itong
Okay.
September last month, Your Honor, 6.9.
Siguro when we were writing those laws, the inflation rate were announced at that particular time. Siguro, ano ba historically tayo? 2, 4?
Yung 2019, Your Honor, no? Kasi mababa yung inflation rate natin, parang 2.4 and then
2.4, kaya gano'n. So, I'm sure legislators nila naisip aabot na 6.9. And then even I think even our central bankers did not also anticipate a 6.9, mga ganun ba? So ako kaya against ako ron, I think the Congress should decide for itself ano yung rate and then how the rate should increase. Nalagyan na lang yan ng table, no? Or every year thereafter 5% not pegged on inflation rate. Kasi yung behavior na inflation rate talagang unpredictable. And then right now, I think, is it explainable, Secretary?
It's a bit, we can understand the near term, but once you go away from that, the uncertainty becomes
Yung law, siyempre, the law is effective until amended or repealed by a subsequent law. So yun, okay, so let this be an input na lang on lawmaking na hinay-hinay na lang kami dyan sa pegging it on inflation rate. Pero kaya po napaka-importante at least pero do we tinker with the goods in the basket which we used to compute the inflation rate? In effect, do we change the definition of the inflation or the description of the goods in the basket?
Your Honor, yung ating review ng basket na sinasabi mo, pag nagre-rebase kami ng inflation rate, ito ay practice every 6 years kasi may pagbabago sa consumption. Yung basket ay based yun sa actual consumption because we do it from the family income and expenditure survey of household. Ito yung isang malaking survey.
This is your own survey.
So yung expenditure side, nakikita natin yung changes. Dati malaki yung percentage na food. Of course, as the income increases, lumiliit yon. So nagbabago yung mga basket of mga items sa basket base doon sa actual consumption ng average household po, Your Honor. So the inflation rate may not be the inflation rate of a higher income household kasi average po yung ating tinitingnan.
Yeah, but there's only one inflation rate announced, tama? And some laws refer to that rate, kaya medyo importante po talaga yan. Okay. Well, yun lang ayoko yung binabago kasi may napansin din ako binabago ang description kaya babago. For example, Secretary, underemployment yata. How we define underemployment, binabago natin Kaya yung figures, akala mo gumaganda kasi binabago naman natin.
Your Honor, yung ating sa labor naman, yung ating definition of unemployment, underemployment, basihan po yan sa International Labor Organization definition para maging, sabi nga kanina ni Secretary, comparable across countries kasi yun naman yung importante talaga.
Kaya when we were discussing with the chairman, the MTFF, puntahan ko lang MTFF, kami lang dalawa nag-usap nun ni chairman. We use GDP sa mga, you're part of the, di ba, Secretary? I'm sure you're part of the committee which drafted that MTFF. Pagdating sa mga goals ninyo, you use GDP, per capita GDP. Pagdating sa income status, you use another concept, GNI. Hindi ko maintindihan why the shift. Hindi ko nakuha eh. All you have six targets yata doon. All the 5 are GDP. Then this one item GNI. Can you enlighten this representation?
Yeah, Your Honor, because you're referring to the average per capita income when we reach upper middle income. Na? That definition kasi of upper middle income was a World Bank definition based on the gross national income or GNI data, no? In some countries kasi, and most countries, particularly yung mga malalaking countries, the more relevant metric sa kanila is GNI, gross national income, which includes not just the incomes earned within the country, but also incomes earned outside the country. Kasi US, for example, ang dami nilang sources investments outside their own country, no? So pinaka-relevant na indicator ka sa kanila is GNI. So para comparable naman yung sinasabi nating upper middle income country as seen by all countries in the world, we peg that doon sa GNI rather
When you
than
say that, I just want to clarify that when you say incomes earned outside the country, is that by corporations or by individuals? Earned outside?
Both. All factors of production.
Okay.
Yung labor, properties that are invested.
So like, let's say Amazon or Facebook, which is quartered in.
So yung income ng mga workers natin abroad, yan, nasa GNI yun.
Because many multinationals, they choose their home, their domestic, what you call that, their domicile rather, or their home office is based on tax considerations. So for GNI, that's brought back for measuring. Ganun ba yun?
The Americans who are here,
They're counted for US income.
the incomes are here,
I see,
are
okay.
counted there as foreign income, as part of the GNI.
The income of our Ws are not included in our GDP.
Not directly, they are in the GNI, but once they enter here and are used in spending, it now goes
Once remitted GDP.
Once it's spent and
To be
reported
spent
as
here,
income, then
not
it
the
becomes
base income of an OFW nurse in London. It's only counted if it's sent back here.
factory income pa rin yan. GNI
No,
pa
it's
rin.
gross national income. It's not
Gross national income pa rin yan.
Yeah.
Is essentially yung GDP is GNI is essentially
Kaya nga, Business Secretary, ito. Bottom line is, GNI is per capita GNP. Ganun ba yung sabihin nun? Hindi pa. GNI is
gross national income.
Hindi per
is,
capita natin.
Gross national income, and if you divide that by the population,
Yeah.
it becomes
Okay,
GNI
so,
per capita.
Okay, GNI per capita. Yun ang nakuha ko lang in terms. So, GNI, hindi na pala product yan. GNI. So, GNI is most likely bigger than GDP. Not always.
Not always. Sometimes, mas madami yung dumadating kaysa lumalabas. Kasi meron ding lumalabas eh. Yung mga workers here who are not
Foreign-owned company earning income in the Philippines but remitted its income to mother company minus yun sa GNI.
Right.
Para pasok yun sa GDP.
Right.
Tama? Pasok yun sa GDP. Labas, wala yun sa GNI. Tama? Mali.
Yeah. Tama yan.
Tama.
Yung foreign company na rinemit sa home country yung income niya, pasok ba yun sa GDP? Hindi. Natin?
Only when it now goes into the domestic stream.
Exactly. But if whatever is remitted to the home country is not included in our
Hindi
GDP.
pa.
okay?
It's still part of the gross national income.
It is the gross national income and part of our GNP, but not part of our GDP.
Right.
Oh, see.
Just want to acknowledge Senator Nancy Binay, also Vice Chair of the committee. Good afternoon, ma'am.
May I, with the I'm glad, I want the minority leader to still be here when I ask my question, because this is connected to the issue of GDP, GNP, and the way we measure our GDP and GNP. And let me put this into the record, because I would like to interest the Neda to support me in this, and of course, all of us, I'm sure. The system of environmental economic accounting, the SEA, di ba? I'm sure you all know. That's the internationally accepted norm or standard for environmental economic accounting. What is it? I don't have to teach Neda, you know that. It provides a framework, organizing, presenting statistics, who is PSA here, on the environment and its relationship to the economy. It brings economic and environmental information, an internationally agreed set of standards, concepts, definitions, classifications, accounting rules, and tables to produce internationally comparable statistics. We know that the SEA has already been developed 2012 pa by the United Nations and released under the auspices of the UN, the European Commission, the FAO, the Agriculture Organization, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation, OECD, as well as the World Bank and the IMF. So my question is a Neda, is a PSA, and all our agencies adopting this year? What are the two parts of SEAs here? The central framework was adopted by the UN Statistical Commission as the first international standard for environmental accounting, as I said, way back in 2012, 10 years ago. So it looks at environmental assets. What are these? Water resources, energy resources, forests, fisheries, the use of the economy, and it returns back to the environment in the form of waste, air, water emissions, etc. So there are several methodological documents that have a sectoral approach. Energy, water, agriculture, all of that. So this was adopted by the UN Statistical Commission. I hope our PSA is updated in 2021. Although this has been used 10 years ago, it was officially adopted by the United Nations in 2021 during the pandemic. I guess the pandemic has a bright side to it when people realize that our measurement of our national gains, GDP and GNP, we must incorporate environmental into our accounting. So what does it say? It takes the perspective of ecosystems and how individual environmental assets interact as part of the natural process within a given spatial area. And ecosystem accounts enable the presentation of indicators of the level and the value of ecosystem services in a given spatial area. I would like to know from the PSA, Sir, and Neda, whether we are already and we have integrated it in our computation of our gross national product, gross national income, gross domestic product, or if we have not, are you open to the idea of introducing and mainstreaming environmental into our economic accounting processes? For after all, this is an internationally accepted standard in FAO, as I mentioned, the European Commission and the United Nations, because we also have bill pending. I filed this in the lower house when I was a congressman in 2019. I refiled it in 2022. May I have the support of Neda, but may I know, maybe it's already being done by a bureau or by the PSA. So I put that on the table because just like the Innovation Act, this is so special to me because it's about time that we incorporate the natural accounting process in our computation of our GDP. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Ma'am, I think the national income accounting is moving in that direction everywhere. The only thing is that it's the information requirement of this other the non-traditional. I would say the non-traditional, which is you're taking account of the resources, environment, including pollution, are not yet in the regular data collection processes. Yeah, that's the limitation of the current system. We don't have that. It's not that it's not doable. It's doable, as you said. There are already practices, but doing it periodically in a way that we do the GDP, which can be done quarterly, it's a big challenge because that means gathering data and even we don't even know the level of pollution in Pasig River on a quarterly basis. Can you imagine if you now all the river systems you have to do that just to have a national estimate, and all the forests in the country have to do that. So it's a big challenge. I think that, but with new technologies like satellite systems, maybe we will be able to move in that direction. I will really also look forward to do that because I think that some countries are over-reporting economic performance because simply they are depleting their resources, no? And that's not created against the future, no? When you have so much pollution, the welfare is really lower than what your GDP says, no? So it's a very important indicator.
I hear from the good secretary that it is not yet being utilized, but you're open and supportive of the idea because, again, as a developing nation with a wealth of resources, it is to our advantage. We use the PENCAS model or environmental accounting as a model. And I know that like the Management Association of the Philippines, they already have study groups and research groups who are very supportive. They've endorsed this bill actually. PCCI, there's no one I know from the private sector and even environmental groups who is not in favor utilizing this kind of, what do you call it, environmental measurement statistics. Perhaps, I know for a fact that Neda has a small group studying that. Hindi po bago ito eh. Kasi alam kong ginagawa na ninyo. So, whatever tools you need or research support, I'd be happy. And let us not wait for Congress or the Senate to enact it into law because you can actually do it because the UN is doing it. The European Commission is doing it. We perhaps can find out model countries or even in developing nations who are utilizing it. So if you're open to the idea, or maybe USEC Leon would know if there's a NEDA group. I think I brought it up to NEDA some time ago in a webinar during the pandemic, and I know this is not new or alien to NEDA. Is there someone doing this kind of measurement of our GNP and GDP? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Senator and Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have that group. We have the Agricultural, Natural Resources, and Environmental Staff. That's the ANRES of NEDA. And what they have done is actually to come up with the roadmap to institutionalize the natural capital accounting, and it was done in coordination with the PSA. It was supposed to have been included in the previous PSDP, Philippine Statistical Development Program. Yeah. But of course we had the pandemic, and so we'll try again for this next round. And yes, and Madam Senator, we also have the Philippine Action Plan for Sustainable Consumption and Production, which we finished in December of 2019. And one of the major action points there really is on the natural capital accounting, because it's really about being able to value all this ecosystem services, all this environmental accounts, and we think that is really the key to encouraging this responsible practices. For now, what the agencies need, in particular the DNR, are really the measuring instruments, the monitoring instruments. That's actually Chapter 20 of the previous PDP. And every year we monitor the targets that we have indicated in the PDP, and it always comes out no data available because they said no instruments.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, and Secretary did as well. How do we measure the coliform level? How do we measure the air level? That's why every year they always ask for capex further, nasisira daw yung monitoring systems. We should make sure that the budgets are there but utilized as well, no? Air quality, water quality, and all of that. Yes. So we're not starting from zero. We have this. I will not utilize the time of this budget hearing, but I would request, Mr. Chair, specific briefing on where we are in PENCAS. The Neda, the PSA, small group meeting for you to brief me on what you already have. And I can share with you, because it's an advocacy. I've been speaking about this for 3 years since I filed the measure. And perhaps we can also get private sector so that, because I want within this next term of mine, this present term of mine, sana before 2025, we can enact it into law. And even before we do, we will give you all the support so that the way we measure our growth and our domestic income would be based on environmental economic accounting. Wow, that would be great. But I will find out also, help you research if there's any other ASEAN nation that does this. Perhaps they're starting also, and we could be the first, or perhaps we could have a
Pilot. What about
the pilot. Yeah, pilot here.
Pilot areas.
Germany can help us. Perhaps France can help us in our trip to Brussels, the EU Commission, because they are a model in PENCAS. And we have the chair as the head of the delegation to the European Union, so that you discuss not just human rights, but ask them for a grant for capacity building for economic managers to measure environmental accounting. And I will put this on the table, I hope, when we meet our French counterparts. Yes, I will give the office of the chair a copy of our PENCAS bill and our mathematician top-notcher. Also, it would be a bipartisan support. I hope that you can support DAS and, of course, our vice chair as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Lauren. I think when it comes to soliciting money, you're better equipped to ask for money. You're more charming. Senator Kobe, did you want to wrap up or?
Yes, just to wrap up, Mr. Chairman, para wala akong loose ends. Mr. Secretary, in the Philippine context, is GNI greater than GDP?
Now it is, but in the last 50 years, maybe not all
Not all the time, but now it is.
Now it is.
Okay, so medyo mayroon akong insight na nakuha doon.
GNI is greater.
Yeah, GNI is greater. So if you use GNI, the per capita per GNI will be greater than per capita GDP per capita.
Is that because of remittances? Okay.
Yes, but let's also be very careful with simple calculation like that, because when you compare incomes of countries, you have to also worry about purchasing, so-called purchasing power parities. Hindi pare-pareho yung inflation.
Right.
So.
Yeah, pero sabi nyo kanina, this is the anong term internationally accepted statistical something record or terminology.
Yes, it's those yung mga internationally published comparisons,
Yes,
like
yeah.
the one with World Bank or UN, yun, they have taken already into account itong mga issues sa comparability of the data. Like,
Right. And then, tsaka just a reminder, Secretary, it's your MTFF does not mention a purchasing power parity. Wala, it's not there. Doon lang tayo sa ginawa ninyo para para lang alam natin. Okay, and then your MTFF mentions poverty incidence rate. You bring it down to 9% at the end of the term of the Marcos administration. What is the definition of a poor person or poor family now? And then will we retain that definition up to the end and then compute the same statistic? That's my question.
and the standard that we used in the beginning must be the same standard that we employ all the way to the end, so that comparable yung data.
Okay, when that MTFF was drafted, what was the definition of the
It's based on
poverty line?
it's based on the basic needs that are used in our official poverty statistics. So yung mga numbers dun sa official poverty statistics natin, yun ang gagamitin.
It's not monthly income?
Well, Well, it's
Kasi
monthly,
ha?
monthly income pero na yung basket of goods din.
Hindi, can I get the can I get the number, the actual
Yeah, we can provide the
factual yung question ko eh. Ang inyo sa MTFF may goal. Tapos agree kay secretary na the definition of terms from the start up to the end parehas so that you can measure the ano. So, okay, ang tanong ko very factual. How was that term defined when you were drafting the MTFF? What is poverty and when you wrote that MTFF?
Yeah, the poverty that we used then was based on the initial number, no, was based on the poverty data that we had for 2021. Kasi yun ang last family income and expenditure survey natin. And then from there, the goal is to put that to 9% by 2028. Okay, so just that percent.
Siguro we started with around the 20% siguro, no? 18, okay, 18.
18.
The mere fact na meron tayong 18%, that means we had, we knew how to measure that. 18% of our population were what? Ano yung tanong ko, were what?
Were deemed poor
Yes,
based on the poverty threshold that
Which
we
was?
employ, which in nominal terms in
Average 12,030
mga
per family.
12,030 per family per month, an average. Again, please take note that people will say that that's too low, obviously, but the way it was generated has to be understood well, because as I explained the last time, Your Honor, when I was asked about this again, that we started with what the nutritionist of DOH, FNRI, therefore the Nutrition Research Institute, na yung what the calorie, the nutrition, the ideal, the nutrient intake that a person has, the recommended dietary intake that a person must have to be considered well functioning. It help to be not malnourished. Okay, so from there, sir, from there, then PSA we go into the provinces and identify the cheapest source that are commonly used in various areas as sources of those nutrients. So yun, doon na aggregate yung data until we get this number. And then we use the actual prices in those
So as actual prices as of the writing of the report of the medium term framework, or as of
as of the date that when it is 2021, which is our last data,
2021.
prices in 2021.
Okay,
Prices in 2021.
Correct.
Pagdating naman doon sa 2028, at prices in 2028. Ganon.
Pero kasi nga, I mean, well, kasi this is the volunteered test that the administration wants to be measured. Pero if it's such a complicated process, at the end of the term, there is we achieved it. Debate ngayon tayo. You did not achieve it. Bilangan ng calories. Gano'n. So, anyway, it was stated that way kasi poverty incidence rate will be 9%. So, we'll just get more information na lang on how that was, how that is proposed to be measured at the end of the administration. Yun na lang siguro dapat maintindihan natin because kung masyadong complicated kasi secretary, ang ending nun, you can always argue na we achieved it. Walang makaintindi how you achieved it.
The beauty of our having a statistical system, Your Honor, is that everything is transparent. It's there. The methodology is there. The data are there. You can actually do it. Actually, all the data information are there in our website that any researcher who would like to replicate the work can do it. I have my researchers before who would replicate what the PSA produce, and
last sir, because I'm really using up the entire time. Philippine ID na lang, sir. The total project would cost how much, and where are we now? How much have we spent for the project?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Yung Philippine Identification System, yung National ID project natin, nagsimula ito noong 2018. At yung kanyang based on the ICC approval hanggang 2024. So yung total budget nito ay mga nasa 29 billion pesos. Mula 2018 hanggang 2022, ang naibigay sa Philippine Statistics Authority ay mga nasa 20 billion 35 million pesos. And next year, we are requesting 2 billion pesos, more or less.
Okay pala. I never thought it would be this large amount, no, when we were crafting this law. Malaki pala. Bakit po malaki? Saan po napupunta yung gastos?
Ang mga malalaking items dito, Your Honor, of course, yung system natin sa pag-capture ng mga biometrics. So may mga machines tayo. We purchased about 7,800 of these registration kits, tawag namin. Ito yung kinukuha yung demographic and biometric information. So ito ay sinabit po namin yun sa Office of the Senate at ito ay mga nasa 1.7 billion pesos, yung lahat ng mga makina. Pagkatapos, of course, may mga tao tayo na hina-hire to do registration. Mga 10,000 ito sila nationwide. Yun malaki rin yung component sa sweldo. At yung ating mga IT system, malaki rin yung component. This is about close to 3 billion pesos. Yung back-end po, yung nagpa-process, nag-check kung unique yung individual kasi pwede na 2 beses kang magpa-register. So kailangang malaman using your biometric. And then of course, ang malaking component din yung printing of the cards. Ito yung sa Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, 30 pesos po per card. So yung 116 million individuals, mga 3 billion plus din po yon. And then yung isang component din na malaki, yung pag-deliver ng card. Yung bayan naman the post office. So mga 35 pesos per delivery. So ito po yung mga major components kaya malaki.
Via the post office para talagang verifiable ang address.
Opo.
Ganun po ba?
Talagang binibigay nila doon sa sa talagang nag-register o di kaya authorized representative pero kailangan may mga documents.
Sige, i-relay ko na lang po yung mga reklamong or observations na natanggap ko. Number 1, marami na daw masyadong matagal na naghihintay. So you just have to explain bakit na delay given all of this, given the budget that has been released. Number 2, wala bang danger that a non-Filipino can get this Philippine ID? This is basically on the birth certificate. And if the birth certificate can be faked or forged, then therefore we have a weakness in the Philippine ID system. Yes, sir.
Okay, first muna Your Honor, Mr. Chair, yung aming yung delay talaga sa national ID system, of course, dahil mabilis yung pag-register nung 2021 nag-register kami sa isang taon, nakapag-register tayo ng mga 53 million Filipinos. So based on experiences of other countries, napakabilis yun, mga 250,000 per day. Yung ating printing of the cards po, which is sa Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, may peak kasi siya ng mga 80 to 100,000 lang. So everyday may delay. But of course, BSP, the Secretary of Neda, Secretary RC, we talk with the BSP Governor and they're adding printers para mapabilis yung ating delivery. Your Honor, siguro i-share ko lang yung aming accomplishment dito sa National ID. So as of end of September 30, we were able to register 73.7 million, close to 74 million of our Filipinos countrymen. And then nakapag-print na tayo ng cards na 21 million. And then to accelerate yung ating distribution, we are actually doing 2 versions, yung printable ID, yung parang physical card, tawag namin, na piniprint ng Bangko Sentral. And then mayroon tayong e-fill ID, parang printable on piece of paper or digital, pwedeng ipadala sa mobile phone. And we will be distributing this. So para mabilis, ang target namin, combination of by the end of the year, 50 million. konti na lang no ang ating mga na-register na walang ID pa. So by end of the year po ang target, ang commitment ng Philippine Statistics Authority is to deliver 50 million of this Phil ID. On your next question, Your Honor, yung ating nire-register, of course dahil yung PSA nasa amin yung civil registration, ano, tama-tama bini-verify po namin yun kasi hinahanapan naman namin sila ng mga documents. Of course, may mga kababayan tayo na wala talagang documents. So, dahil inclusive yung national ID, hindi tayo nagtataboy. Pero verify po namin itong mga identities nila. So, we are registering right now just Filipinos. But after this, we will register resident aliens pagkatapos.
Mr. Chairman, with the permission of the minority.
Thank you.
You're done, Minority Leader. Thank you, Minority Leader. Before I recognize Senator Blina, I just want to acknowledge one of our committee vice chairs who's online, virtually present, Senator Grace Poe, and earlier Senator Bongo was also online. Go ahead, Senator Blina, Vice Chair, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hindi, dun lang ho dun sa printable ID. Pag meron na ho ba kayo ng printable ID, will you still get that ID coming from Central Bank?
Yung printable ID, ito po yung parang stopgap, but the printing sa BSP tuloy-tuloy pa rin yun. So mauuna lang yung parang printable, but you will still, kasi yung information will still go to the printing facilities
And then,
and i-deliver.
Hindi ho ba madaling ma-fake yung printable ID?
Mayroon po kaming system, QR code. So may QR code yung ating physical card para ma-verify siya. Yung ating printable ID may QR code din po.
So yung mga establishments, meron silang way of
Yes.
knowing
Yeah.
if it's not
Tama po
real.
yun. And Your Honor, yung Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the Bankers Association of the Philippines are very supportive that they will accept the printable ID because of this QR code component. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to another topic. Hindi, curious lang ako, Secretary Balisacan, because you were in Neda noong 2012, tama po ba? Yes. So, 10 years after, when you were there noong 2012, ano ho yung mga na-approve ng Neda board then na either tapos na or patapos na in the pipeline or hindi ho natuloy?
As you may recall, Your Honor, a lot of the PPP projects that were launched.
Hindi ho natuloy yan, di ba? Most of them.
No, many of them were natuloy. I could. The first one was this Naya Expressway that was completed. It started during the Calax was also started during that. The Skyway 3 was also started during our and was all approved by even this ongoing MRT7 that was started.
So ano yung hindi na yung mga big ticket projects na hindi natuloy?
I think yung mga airports, there were some PPP airports that were not continued. I think including the one Naya.
Vicente, di ba?
Naya,
Vicente. Wasn't that supposed to be a PPP?
At saka yung mga Iloilo pala,
Yeah.
yung mga
Provincial.
we ran out of time to push through all these those projects. But of course, what I would consider as I would say a significant achievement at that time was that we from 2010 to 2016 we were able to sustain a growth of 6.3%, which was not quite significant because as I look at the numbers, that was we never had that kind of sustained growth since the 70s, and so what we were hoping. So when we crafted the ambition natin 2040, Your Honor, we were hoping that rate of growth of 6 to 7%. That rate of growth of 67% could, if every administration, say in the next 5 6 administrations can sustain that, we would be able to achieve or to reach a high income status by 2040. That was our dream, our ambition that at the
Pero
time.
I guess so because of the pandemic and then the ano ba yun, changes globally, medyo iti-tweak niyo ho ba itong Ambition 2040? Which parang medyo na-incorporate na yung 2040 pero with mga 2040 na incorporated yung new normal or
Definitely ho. Kaya nga dito sa 2023-2028 PDP, ano na namin yung kung paano yung catch up doon. But we believe that since yung mga targets doon, ambitions, were based on empirical data and what ordinary people want to see for themselves, we don't think that those have changed. What might have changed is our approach to going there because it's not the same world as we knew it before. No, it's a new normal, so we have to reframe our strategies and plans accordingly.
so when do we see that itong changes that you're gonna incorporate?
In the
Dun sa
PDP,
Ambition
we
2040?
promised the president that, or the president actually instructed us to complete the work before the end of this year. So we'll have a 23 to 2028 PDP submitted to the president and to Congress before the end of the year.
Yung during your time kasi no 2012 sa NEDA, I think that trust then was PPP, tama? I mean that time, mostly yung mga big ticket projects was done through PPP.
That was very, for us, strategic kasi, Your Honor, at that time, my appreciation of our development problems was we had so many things to do, so many things to fix. Yet, government resources are so limited. And yet, the private sector is awash with the cash, as you can see from all their subscriptions to government bonds, treasury bills. It's and we thought that if there's a way for the private sector to provide the infrastructure that's profitable, while at the same time safeguarding the interests of ordinary people in the use of this infrastructure, so that we can use the very limited resources that government has on education, on health, and social protection. Because ito, walang kakagat na mga PPP, mga ganito. But highways, expressways, kakagat yun. It's just a matter of designing, presenting a design that makes the private sector feel that their investment is safe and profitable.
Kasi the other day with the minority floor leader, we attended yung budget hearing ng DOTR. Meron silang 8 billion cost to government, cost to us because of delayed or ano ba yan, hindi na natuloy na projects. So, side ko lang I think every budget ng DOTR, lagi ko nire-raise yung issue na ito. For example, yung Cebu BRT, I don't know if that started nung Pinoy
Started with
time.
us. Yeah, that started with us.
I guess yung thrust, was that under a PPP mode or?
No, it was initially a PPP supported by the World Bank. Is that parang
Yes,
PPP?
parang World Bank.
Yeah. And we were about, it was more or less completed already at that time, ready for implementation. The only problem then was the right of way for issues.
And I guess inabutan din kayo ng change in
That's right.
government. So, 10 years after, parang ni isang hukay, wala pa rin yung project na yon. And I think we've been paying commitment fees or penalty fees At the end of the day, meron tayong loan na binabayaran na hindi natutuloy. Well, number one, hindi pa natutuloy yung project. Number two, parang hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin ho nadidesisyonan kung itutuloy pa ba natin yung project. Because I think dun sa BRT, may resistance coming from the local government. Parang nagkakagulo pa ata sila kasi saan ba, di ba may dadaanan na ayaw magbigay dun sa right of way and so marami hong issues na sabi ko, hindi ba pwedeng desisyon na natin whether to stop the bleeding. But, well, during the budget season, during the budget the other day, nandun pa rin ho yung item na BRT. I don't know if it's under Neda or TOF. Saan ho ba, who decides when do we stop and say na parang tama na? Kasi ilang taon na tayo nagbabayad ng penalty, eh hindi naman talaga natin kayang ituloy yung project.
It's the NEDA board who will decide. The NEDA board is headed by the president. So we have to convene the NEDA board and the host agency, the sponsoring agency, in this case DOTR, has to put that in the agenda. And in fact, I heard that in our meeting with the World Bank in New York with the president, they raised this issue actually that there are all these long pending projects that busway, that rapid transit
Cebu
in
BRT.
Cebu, in Davao,
Yeah.
and even this we also had one already designed at the time for Quezon Avenue.
Meron din ho yung Metro Manila BRT,
Right,
pero
we
hindi
don't
na
know
ata.
what happened with those ones, but
Hindi
we
na-
are revisiting many of them.
Okay.
As you might have, we are refreshing and strengthening our PPP center to be able to get these projects, because as you have heard, the president is in a hurry to get all this to complete all these projects.
And then, dun ho sa DOTR, parang I just found it strange na yung mga ibang cause of delays dun sa project, parang hindi ba dapat bago tayo nag-apply ng loan, hindi ba dapat yung project na yan ready to take off na? Eh parang dun ho sa explanation nila, yung design, yung dadaanan, and parang hindi ho ba dapat na-resolve na yan before we started getting a loan wherein we were paying penalties. For example, yung Mindanao Rail, yun din, isang project na ni isang hukay, wala pa din, but apparently may cost na dun sa atin, sa government. And then ngayon, parang in limbo pa siya technically kasi hindi pa alam kung saan yung funding. But I think they're still talking to the Chinese.
We also a good thing to revisit ho siguro yung law on the acquisition of right of way for national government projects. I mean, you should have a stronger teeth in implementing or getting that right of way instead of being tied by endless negotiations, and I think that's a big part of the problem, Your Honor. Maybe you can revisit that law.
Sige po. O nga, I think, ano ba yung isang project, parang may isang bahay na ayaw niya pumayag. So siya na lang iniintay ng project para matuloy ata yung, ano, kung road yun or bridge yun. Dahil nga, Mr. Chairman, sa right of way. Parang there's one DPWH project na hindi matapos ata yung highway kasi may isang house
One
na
house.
ayaw niyang pumayag umalis dun sa...
That's why you have eminent domain, di ba? Why don't we use eminent domain?
So yan lang pa, Sec, baka pwede nyo i-review itong 13 projects ng DOTR kasi every budget, nandun yung item, tapos yun lang nga, paulit-ulit hanggang ngayon wala pa ring hukay. And apparently, time nyo pa pala yung 10 years ago. Eh, sayang ho because di ba at the end of the day, itong mga projects na to, dapat nagagamit na to for our convenience, but apparently, hindi nga ako natutuloy.
I think that SEC Manny Bonuan, si Jimmy Bautista will and I will sit down next week to look at
And
those.
are we going back dun ho sa PPP? Kasi, I mean, the previous government, they opted to do loans.
Yeah.
Di ba ho? Are we, again, kumbaga, binubuhay ho ba natin itong PPP?
The approach that we are taking, Your Honor, is to open up all avenues for investment and finance for our infrastructure, whether it's ODA or borrowing from commercial or PPP. But we have heard the president saying in many occasions about the prospects for PPP. And we are now preparing for that. We have gotten a new executive director for our PPP Center who has quite a extensive background in the private sector and big projects, and we hope that we can push it harder.
That's good to hear po, Sec. Kasi alam naman natin, di ba, Mr. Chairman, katulad ng Cebu Airport, di ba PPP ho yan?
That was our first successful PPP under our administration.
The nicest, not the nicest airport in the country.
Yeah.
O kasi ko, di ba, parang parang wala ka sa Pilipinas pag doon ka pupunta.
Sadly, it's true but sad. It's sad because, di ba? Kasi maganda kaya. But even the duty-free area it kind of feels like an international airport because it's not some tiny stall there in the corner.
Many more of those.
Yes, baka ho dun sa NAIA, we can explore that possibility dahil alam naman ho natin, di ba, if we want to bring in more tourists, dapat yung pag-land pa lang nila sa airport natin, maganda na yung experience.
Senator Nancy is the chair of tourism and she also chairs the budget of Baka, Sen Nancy, if you agree, we can ask Neda to, if you need budget, we'll place budget, but to study the long-term prospect of a bigger airport. And also, no, that's something that dovetails with, since there's already a law for Bulacan, but something that really studies our tourism and will provide some kind of a plan for tourism infrastructure plan, something like that. That takes into account airports, cruise ports, all kinds of, any transport which, modality which will bring in tourists. Because that's really our, no matter how good our marketing is, we keep changing our slogan, as Senator Nancy said. But at the end of the day, it's your carrying capacity, diba? So, is that possible? Is it possible?
That's in fact the instruction with our president that we identify those quite strategic tourism areas, and the approach should be whole of government. When you develop an area, it's whole of government, meaning the airport must be there, the connectivity, or the services. So if you identify Bohol or
si
Palawan,
Secretary
then,
Jimenez put a clustering system. May clustering system si
everything has to be
Secretary
there.
Jimenez where everything is a few hours from the airport, and so that whole, can you revert to that so you can see sino yung bungi doon, so you're kompleto yung mapa mo. Maybe they can refer to that.
And
One
siguro,
new secretary has that perspective.
Okay, good.
and siguro, Secretary, let us use more yung bodies of water natin. Parang, di ba, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, pag nasa abroad kami, parang inggit na inggit kami pag nagre-river cruise. Di ba, can you
Yeah,
just imagine kung yung Pasig River natin, ma-develop natin na pwede kang mag-dinner while cruising the Pasig River, di ba? And then makikita mo yung mga old buildings natin sa Manila.
Right, that's right.
Even sa Makati, kasi may portion doon na nandun yung mga old houses along the Pasig River. If we can develop that, di ba, potential.
Yeah. Maybe an inventory of all your assets that are not underutilized, something. So is that possible, Sec? Or you're leaving it to DOT to do that? Because DOT will say they don't have the funds.
Budget.
Diba?
We're working on. We have been discussing with Sec Money and Sec Jimmy,
Jimmy.
coming up with a connectivity roadmap for the entire country.
For example, Secretary, sa Amalfi Coast. Kasi 'di ba sa Amalfi Coast, series of different coves 'yon. So, meron ho silang ferry service na you just pay €5 para for you to visit the different coves. Tapos hindi nyo na kailangan sumakay ng bus or magdala ng car. You can just take the ferry. Tapos pwede mo nang pasyalan yung iba-ibang cove. Can you just imagine if you can do that sa Cebu, na from Mandaue, you can go to Cebu City, to the other coastal areas, diba? If we can develop that, ang laking ano yan. Lalang-lala na may constraint tayo dun sa land eh. So baka we can develop yung ganong highway, coastal highway.
In our trips with the president, we identified tourism as one of the critical, as the priority sectors for the economy. So I think that we
So baka for next year's budget, and then next year's budget, meron ho kayong study para we can incorporate sa budget ng DOT. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Nancy, our Vice Chair. So I think that's it for, unless Senator Poe is no longer online. I just wanted to follow up on my request for yung statistics, no, for the
Mr. Chair,
employment. Yeah.
if you don't mind,
Yeah, please, Secretary
might,
Narci.
I think Senator Binay Nancy might want this. TIESA, the DOT's infra agency, is developing a pipeline of PPPs, for the various tourism assets under the so a PPP center is helping them put, that I think that.
Sir, can we, since you mentioned that already, the presentation says major accomplishments, added 8 new projects to the pipeline. Goals for 2023, add 6 new projects to the pipeline. When you say add to the pipeline, does it mean the project is a go already, or it's still going to undergo studies?
It's the preliminary ones. Preliminary steps are already
Kasi
done.
kung susundan natin yung sinabi ni Senator Nancy, pag pipeline, walang garantiya na matatapos yun, di ba? So how far along the pipeline are these projects? What is the chance of them being actual projects?
Well,
rather
at the
than
very least, this must be already have been approved already by the cabinet.
these 8 projects?
Yeah.
Can you mention them to us?
Do we have the names of those?
Sir, we don't have the actual names right now, but these are mostly under development. Some are DOTR projects, several LGU projects being feasibility studies are being done and then eventually submitted to the
Just
ITC.
give us an idea what they are. What are they?
Sorry.
You don't have the names of. There's only 8 projects and you don't have the names.
Okay.
It's kind of.
Yeah.
And that's very basic information. It's here in your presentation.
Wait, sorry. Sir, medyo mahaba listahan and this can...
No, I just want to list the 8 new projects that you're claiming as your major accomplishment. It says major accomplishment, Public-Private Partnership Center of the Philippines. Number 1, added 8 new projects to the PPP pipeline. 2, conducted 21 capacity building activities. 3, adopted 5 PPP issuances. So I'm asking about those 8 new projects. What are those?
Sir, these are the PGH project, the PGH in UP Diliman, the Cancer Center, and some of the unsolicited proposals submitted by the DOTR and DPWH. Health and
What are the others? That's 1. What are the 7?
Sorry, hindi ko kabisado yung...
Siguro ano yung sa DOTR?
Wait, sorry.
Parang napaka-basic naman yung tanong. It's such a basic
po,
question.
sorry.
I don't understand the difficulty of coming up with a reply, Your Honor. Mr. Secretary. Not asking for some difficult theoretical construct.
Sorry, nasa kabila pala. Those added to the pipeline, the Bagao Water Project, the Ilolo Slaughterhouse, the Clark Tiesa Businessman's Hotel Project, San Pablo City Water District Supply Project, and the road IT of the OTR and LTFRB, the PGH Cancer Center, as I said, and the UP PGH the hospital project in Diliman. Tas Baguio General Hospital and Metro Cebu Expressway at saka yung Cagayan Valley Medical Center, hemodialysis center. So,
Okay, there.
sorry.
What are the 6 new projects that you want to add for 2023 that you put down in your goals?
Actually, ito pa rin, sir, yung nasa, kasi most of them did not move under the last ICC. So we'll pursue them and then new ones for additional other
Ano
projects.
na yung 6? You're saying the 6 are the 8 also?
Those under evaluation, itong, as I said, yung General Hospital ng PGH, others are San Ramon Newport, the operations maintenance of North-South Railway, the Ormoc City Water Supply Project, the Rizal Park Western Section Development Project of PSA, MRT7 variation proposal of the OTR, and there's a IT system of LRA and titling registration, yung synchronization ng variation. So,
Are these, Mr. Secretary, are these demand-driven or supply-driven? Meaning, what's the origin of this proposal?
I think most of solicited,
Okay.
Your Honor, but
Is there a plan to have, to consciously push
solicited.
certain perceived needs?
Yeah, of course, our preference is solicited.
Yeah. Meron ba tayong preferences regarding the?
We are updating our public investment program now, and that will come out with the PDP when we release that one. So that will provide the long list of infrastructure projects throughout the country, because these are vetted by the various regional development councils. But it does not mean that we are closing our doors from unsolicited projects.
No.
That's why we wanted to have a roadmaps, particularly connectivity roadmaps, so that when we have an unsolicited proposal, that the plan is not distorted.
Yeah, we'll just get descriptions in writing. Can you give a description of these projects?
yes, sir, we will.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, parang
Yes,
hindi rin ganun ka big ticket yung mga ano, no? Kasi water project.
Use kasi ngayon.
Oo nga.
Yun nga, kasi the big ones really maybe need a push from the secretary and the economic team. Yeah, so I suppose in the next few months you'll be coming up with
Mr.
something.
Chairman, parang uso ata yung water project ngayon. Parang uso yung water project.
What is that about, the water project?
Water and sanitation projects for some water districts and some LGUs.
Because LUA is very underfunded and has poor coverage, di ba? So,
Yes.
saan yan? Saan yung project na yan?
Some LGUs, water districts in Bislig, San Pablo.
Ganyan, yung LGU cannot decide for themselves.
Actually, that was raised by Senator Tolentino earlier because pag 200 million daw, it needs ICC ba? Neda ICC.
Under the BOT law. Under the BOT law, that's
But he sent me a text, Senator Tolentino, after he left, he sent a text saying, it's not the law, it's the IRR which requires it, not the law.
really okay.
So, can you look into that, please? Are you a lawyer?
Hindi po.
We will look.
Can you have your lawyers look into it? Because what's the, or right now, obviously, we're doing something, so we cannot check the law. But because if it's the IRR, then that's something within your hands, Secretary, that you can, with the stroke of a pen, you can already make a 200 million. That's 1994. I mentioned
For the BOT law.
1994 vintage. So, masyado na mapaba yun, di ba? That's $3.5 million.
In any case,
You'll be talking about projects na small time talaga, di ba? When we need the big ones to really...
Yeah.
Parang sayang ho yung
Maybe we need
resources nyo.
Neda's expertise to look at really the strategic, the perceived, yung talagang pangangailangan natin, infrastructure, strategic infrastructure, infrastructure for value adding, di ba? Things like that.
Buti ho sana kung yung project parang the whole of, kunyari dalawang province water project for that
Yeah.
whole area, di ba? Pero kung
One
isang city
town,
lang,
one
di ba? Kung one town lang. Parang sayang naman ho yung oras.
Yeah. So, any other questions, Senator Nancy? Yeah, I think there's no other. We'll just thank anything from your side, from the body. Maybe those who didn't get the chance to speak might want to. Anybody want to say anything related to their budget?
Sorry, sir, on the projects, just to add, the other big projects also under development, ito yung mga solicited care of DPWH, like yung Cannon Road Improvement Project, yung CLEX Phase O&M sa DPWH. So other big ticket BOTs, mostly solicited. Others, as mentioned, are
What is the-
unsolicited
can
projects.
you speak a little slower?
Sorry,
CLEX improvement, what is that?
yung Marines,
Going to Bicol?
yes. So, yung
To
O&M,
where? Hanggang saan?
yes.
Up to where?
Marines Expressway, Phase 1 and 2 O&M, operational maintenance po ng
Anong coverage nun?
CLEX, Central Luzon,
CLEX is not Camarines.
sorry.
CLEX is that's probably extension of the. Is that the extension of the Tiplex that goes?
Yes, sorry, sir, that one,
goes
sorry,
into
not
San
Camarines.
Jose
Yes.
and then to Baler, I think. No.
Yes,
That's the one.
that's the one, sir, sorry.
So 1 and 2 covers how long? How much?
I don't have the actual number here, sir, but we'll send you the details
Just
of
send us
this.
the
as mentioned.
details, please.
Yes, we will.
You don't have that many projects, so I wish
Yes.
there was greater familiarity with the few that we have.
Yes, sir.
Anyway,
Yes, most of these are under study and we'll send you the details. Thank you.
okay. Secretary, anything else from your end?
Well, there will be legislation that we'll be pushing.
Certainly, yeah.
Your Honor, and we will.
Yeah, we can help
especially
sponsor.
the-
Ano ba yun?
I think,
Anong-
well, foremost is, one of the relevant to this current discussion is the BOT. I think if we can get that
you
amended.
have some amendments.
Yeah, it's also to give, to clarify some of the still remaining vague
Mhm.
provisions there
Okay.
to further incentivize and
Yeah.
raise the confidence of private sector.
Sige. Okay, if there are no more questions, then thank you very much to Secretary Balisacan and the agency heads for coming this afternoon. Thank you to Senator Binay, and we'll favorably recommend your budget for plenary discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.